All right, Social Nation, guess what? I have a very, very cool and interesting guest today. He's one of my favorite people, actually, roaming this planet that keeps spinning despite a pandemic. So I wanted to thank you, Mark, for jumping on this video and having a little chat because, as you know, things are continuing to change. Remember when it used to be, the saying used to be, well, change is inevitable. Now it's change is constant.
Yeah.
It's not just inevitable, right? So thank you again, man. How you been?
Pretty good. I'm hopeful. We've got more
Yeah.
vaccines being rolled out, and they're doing more research, and people are a little more comfortable getting out. I went to the Vallejo Art Walk on Friday. It's the first one since
Okay.
the pandemic started, and a lot of local. In fact, I think you have to be local, self-produced art of some kind, basically set up on the sidewalk in downtown Vallejo, and they don't even shut down the streets. They
Huh.
let people drive through. You park wherever you
Like
normally
normal.
park.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like normal.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was quite full, pretty well attended. The restaurants, some of them were not open for dinner downtown for a while, and now they're all open for dinner downtown now. And it was a great,
Cool.
lively situation. The farmers markets never stopped in Vallejo, except for maybe a couple of Saturdays. They shut them down, but they realized that some people only shop at farmers market, and if the grocery store can stay open, the farmers market ought to stay open too.
That makes plenty of sense. Very good. So yeah, it seems like the world is rehydrating. We're starting to see more and more people coming out. Traffic is definitely seems like it's back. It's taking longer to get across town these days. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the sentiment of investing, right? The future. I mean, we were so stuck on the right now and liquidity because people were forced to stay indoors. And liquidity became a big major thing, the cash is king kind of thing. What are you seeing now? What's the sentiment now of the consumer out there? Are they more mindful? Because typically when you go through something like a pandemic or something that really rattles you, you tend to be more conservative. You tend to be more of future thinking. You start to plan more because you can see the kind of damage. Because, I mean, look, by all intents and purposes, I think, yes, we had a health pandemic, but we also had a financial pandemic that people don't
Right.
talk about. So, what are you seeing out there right now as far as people? Are they planning more? Are they starting to open up IRAs? Are they starting to invest more? What are they doing?
Well, I kind of look at this, ignoring my existing clients, because they probably are more biased than anyone else. Where the existing clients have long-term buckets, medium-term buckets, and short-term buckets, and they've been operating that way sometimes before they even met me. They may have had a financial planner, 30 years ago, that had been working with the family, and all I did was continue that legacy. But when I speak to people that are not quite working with a financial planner, they are starting to think that inflation may cause them some problems, and getting less than 1% on their taxable savings account or money market account is not going to go very far. So they are starting to call up people like myself to talk to us about what they can do. And I try to tell them too the same thing. Scared money should always be scared. I had a referral from a longtime friend, and they wanted to invest $300,000 for 90 days. And,
Hmm.
and I said, invest in 90 days should not be in the same sentence. There's not really any
Yeah,
investing for 90 days, at least not with me. Right. I
right.
mean, they're looking to buy some real estate, and they have this down payment money. And I had another um, situation where the trustee of a death settlement we're working on wanted to invest the money for about 60 days. And I'm like, well, there's not really any 60 days investment. A 60-day CD is going to get you 0.05. So, and that's taxable. So
Yeah.
people are more optimistic. Some people are
Okay.
realizing the work from home is okay.
Right.
We have a lot of clients moving outside of the larger metropolitan areas. We've seen, typical stuff you see on the news is actually happening. Those people that kept their long-term investments where they were have really made a lot of money, starting with the ultra
Yeah.
wealthy people down to regular people who did not panic in their IRA or 401k. They had a nice little mutual fund in there. They've made money.
Are you seeing more people reaching out to you? Like, look, I got to get my stuff straight. Now I really realize the power and need of getting a financial advisor.
Yeah, we've seen an uptick. In fact, I think last week I had 10 appointments with people we had not talked to before, and that's unusual. There might be
Okay.
one or two in a given week. I did
Okay.
take the week before that off, so that might have had something to do
Yeah.
with
Some
it.
pent up demand. Right.
Yeah, more people could not get in because the 2 weeks before that I was already busy. But
Yeah.
people are reaching out and they are trying to make sense of where they are financially and what they should be doing moving forward.
Okay. Awesome. So, what do you tell a person that calls you up these days that says, "Hey, look, I'm biting the bullet, man. I can't do this on my own. I need you. I need a professional who can guide me to the future." Right? What do you tell them as a starting point?
Well, I would start off with I'm not sure about that. You've gotten where you are without any help. Let's take a look at what you've done so far. And this actually happened recently, where a local realtor referred me to someone, and we did an initial meeting, and we looked at everything that was going on, and there were a couple of really small changes that she could make and possibly benefit herself moving forward. But there wasn't really any huge value that I could add in her situation. And I said, hey, you could pay us, but at the end of the 12 months, you're going to look back and say, well, why did I pay that? My life is not that much better to have paid that fee. So I brought up a couple of things that she should take a look at doing, and I agreed to meet with her again in 6 months without charge, and see where she is and what might have changed. And then there's other situations where the benefits of working with us and us helping them do things they can't do on their own are really huge. IRA to Roth conversions and
Mm,
donor advised
right.
funds for highly appreciated stocks
Right.
to pair with that Roth conversion, and possibly doing the side door Roth contribution because their incomes are too high, or there's just a lot of things there that they're probably not going to do on their own, and
That's
we're
true.
willing to charge them a fee and hold their hand, and oftentimes do a lot of that actual mechanical work for them.
Yeah. And if you guys heard, I mean, listen to some of the cues because people leave evidence when they speak, right? Notice how there's no salesy thing here. That's one of, to me, the major things about picking the right financial advisor. Are they picking stuff for their betterment or is it for yours? And are they being honest enough to tell you, look, maybe this is not a fit? I think you're doing great. That kind of authenticity and honesty is priceless, which is one of the reasons why I love working with Mark. So in closing, Mark, what do you tell the person who doesn't call you, who's thinking, I don't really need anybody's advice. I could just
Oh,
do all of this on my own. And
if
they've
I had
never,
a
by the way,
dollar,
then they've never invested outside of a
yeah.
401k,
Well, if I had a dollar for every time someone said, "I wish I would have started working with you 10 years ago,"
right?
and there are cases. You and I both have a software relationship manager, and this one person said something like that, and I said, you've been receiving my emails for 15 years. I had met with this person about every 3 or 4 years. And just I'm not the kind to arm wrestle anybody into something. I want them to feel confident about their decisions. But I said, yeah, what I'm curious about is based on what you know now and how amazing your outlook can be based on some small changes that will be big impacts later. What could the financial advisor have said to get you to get going, before? And
Great
they really
question.
had no answer. They weren't ready mentally. to get some help. Even though they implemented changes we recommended many times over the years, they were still doing it themselves, thinking it was just too expensive to go to the oil change place. They were going to change their own oil in their car. And if you don't mind getting dirty and you're not worried about the results of your oil change. My story is that when I tried to change my own brakes in my car, and I almost took out the washing machine because I didn't bleed the brake line. I was 17 years old, and my dad said, "Listen, you make enough money. You don't need to be changing your own brakes. That's important on the freeway." I mean, that was a big lesson for me. And same thing might go for other things where having a professional help you out is worth it. And the same thing for mortgages. I get these clients that are involved in a refi or a purchase, and they're using these out of area lenders, if you will. And every time there's a success, they stand on top of the mountain and they say, "Yes, I refied with bankrate.com or this or that or what have you." But you don't hear about the 30 deals that fell apart that day because you're dealing with an out of area lender that may not know the unique situations of California, let alone our fire areas and the proper level of insurance. And yeah, sure, you could go to your bank and get a refi, but I got called into the corner at my local Bank of America recently because the ATM would not take my check, and
Hmm.
I had to go in and make a deposit, and they wanted me to talk to the preferred banker to upgrade my status. And he was telling me about being able to get lower refinance rates through the bank because of my status. And I said, "Well, I actually called Bank of America a couple of years ago to get a refi for somebody. I was helping a client out, and it was just a mess. And their rates were not in line with what their existing mortgage broker had quoted them. And it pays to get help many times, but when you're dealing with someone like myself, and even you, I remember you helping one of my clients where she could have gotten a lower interest rate and her payment would have been lowered a little bit, but it wasn't worth it to pay all those closing costs on a $78,000 mortgage. And you're like, "Ma'am, just keep doing what you're doing. If you think you have extra money, then pay it down." But a refi is not worth it in your case.
Right. Yeah. It's that honest advice. I always look at it as asking the right questions is so key. And one of them should be not so much how much does it cost, it's more of what's the ROI. Because if you knew that you could stick a 10 and it would always spit out a 20, wouldn't you stick tens all day?
I would
So
borrow
is it the
tens from
10
my
that you're
next door
focused
neighbor.
on? No. What's that?
I would borrow $10 bills from my next
Oh,
door neighbor.
I'd start making phone calls. I'd get a bunch of tens.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people do during a market correction is
Yeah.
they usually have cash or safe investments on the sidelines. Most people do.
Sure.
And they reposition that safe money on the way down for the stock market. And I see people doing that with Bitcoin now. You see it on Facebook all the time. My friends will say, "Oh, Bitcoin's on sale. We should buy more Bitcoin." Well, we can't really discuss Bitcoin. It's not regulated or anything like that. But if the stock market loses 25%, it's probably going to come back. And if you have long-term money that was never really invested in a long-term asset, time to make a change on the way down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. You're absolutely right. Mark, my last question. How do people get a hold of you?
They can usually find me on LinkedIn, or they can type in Mark Porter Financial Planner in their computer. My license is with Ameriprise, the logo behind me. I've been here for 18 and a half years. I really enjoy helping people. And what I normally do during the pandemic, if we're going to set up a meeting, I'll have dinner sent to their house so they can have dinner on me after our meeting is over, or lunch, or whatever makes sense. In the old days, we'd hang out at Probaco and have a nice
Right.
conversation. But
The old
I
days.
did
I
move
love
to
it.
40. What's that?
The old days.
Yeah, I know. I did move to 44 Montgomery, and I still think Probaco is probably the closest, nicest restaurant to the office
It
there.
is.
But
It is.
it's really about figuring out what's important to you and what are some ways of getting to that goal sooner, possibly more safely. or by paying less taxes. A lot of people I meet with, they're on track for retirement, no problem, but they're also on track for 54% income tax in retirement. And, not a big deal. If you've got the money and you're in the 54% bracket, not a big deal. But if we could make some changes now so that in retirement you're in the 30% bracket, they'll usually want to work on
You just
that.
gave yourself a promotion. Nothing wrong with that,
A
right?
raise. Yeah.
Very good. Well, as always, Mark, you're always a wealth of information and your honesty is always appreciated. We thank you. So do yourselves a favor, guys. Regardless of whether you think you got this, give him a call. I think you're going to be really surprised at not only his approach, but also the advice that he can give you, even if you don't engage him. What's important is having the conversations. Get out of your head, stop making assumptions, and just talk to the pros, because not everybody's a salesperson looking to sell you snake oil. There's a lot of us good people out there that what we focus on is advice and education because we love what we do. And I think it shows tremendously with Mark. So, Mark, thank you for being you. Thank you for adding value over so many years. I've known you for a long time. And I know that every client I've sent you has been more than elated and happy that I did that. All right, my friend, you take care. Have a great day.